This channel is for educational purposes only. Please do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions.
Hi, this is Joe Rabil with Invest Like a Pro. So what I want to do today is talk about stalking a trade. And you got to know your plan. You got to have the patience to wait for your criteria and know what you're stalking, right? It's first order of priority is to make sure you do know what you're looking for. Otherwise, you just kind of fly by the seat of your pants, and I don't really recommend that. So let's go ahead and get into this example. So I have a daily chart of the S&P, the spider on the left, and then I've got an hourly chart on the right. All right, this is live action of what's taking place right now. Okay, now if I look at this setup, I know I've got certain things that I like, right? The move to the upside is strong. I've got confirmation on a momentum basis all the way up to the DI confirming the last peak, right? The volume pattern looks pretty good. Yeah, there's a little bit of selling off the top, but from that point on, I'm okay with it. And in fact, we also started to see signs of a little bit of buying stepping in potentially, although by the end of the day, it kind of gave that back. But what I like is we're coming back into this moving average environment. All right. Now, so I know from a standpoint of the potential being there, there is some potential here. All right. Now, what I like to do is go each bar and bar by bar from this point, and that's my version of stalking. All right. Now that's just on the daily, not just on the daily chart, but also on the trigger time frame. You got to go bar by bar and figure out what the market is telling you every single bar. Now, one of the things that happened on the higher time frame 2 days ago told me that I probably don't need to play this quickly. All right. I don't think this is going to turn on a dime and take off. And why is that? Well, when this rolls over like that from a distance from the zero line like this, what I have noticed is we can make a trading move. And if you want to play for a short-term little trading move, you can do that. But probably I would be using as a target as the 50% retracement. And then a lot of times it'll come right back down. Now, I say a lot of times because I would say the vast majority of times that's what's going to happen. But there will be select times where, yeah, it'll just take off and you would miss the trade, which, I'm okay with because I don't really want to play for a quick move in the hopes that it's going to do it, 1 out of 10 times or something like that, maybe 2 out of 10 times. That's a 20% chance that it's going to work and go to test this high or go to a new high. To me, that's not really good odds. I would prefer to have this happen and then have the potential for that number to go way up. 60%, 70% chance of this thing actually working its way back up to the high or going to a new high. So that's what this is telling me. But I would know that by stalking it bar by bar on the upper time frame. Now, there's a couple things I do like on the upper time frame is the size of the bars aren't bad. We had kind of a big bar here. We had a little bit of a gap, but from that point on, it's been pretty orderly, not too bad. All right, now if we go to the smaller time frame, hourly, here's what's happened. The 18 has crossed down below the 40, no problem. The setup doesn't even occur until this bar right here, where we close close below the 18, which is below the 40, right? We're below both lines, and price closes there, and the 18 is below the 40. We have a setup at that point, which is meeting both criteria, both time frames criteria. Now, in order to find a trigger, we need to look and see what's going on. Number one, the minimum criteria would be taking out the 40 on a closing basis. We didn't even come anywhere near doing that. But in the process of pulling back here, we've seen overrun and we've seen a little bit of selling pressure here. So if I'm stalking this trade, I know I don't have to be sitting at the edge of my seat here. I don't have to jump the gun and say the moment this turns up, I'm getting long, because I'm looking for this to give it a little bit more time. I'm probably going to play the higher pivot low, depending on how it plays out, or a breakout pattern if it takes a little longer. And so I'm using the criteria that I have to help me stalk this pattern. Now, if you want to be a little bit more aggressive and you can say, you know what, we went in the zone and now we've come out, but we're not following through to the downside. So I'm watching this really close, because if this turns up from here, that's pretty bullish. right? I mean, that's a pretty bullish sign. What's bothering me is the ADX and the MACD showing a lot of strength to the downside. That's why it's still, even though this is really kind of like a failed new low right now, and if it turns up, I would probably still wait for some sign of confirmation, just based on the way this is played out and the momentum to the downside. We had enough momentum to the downside that tells me, as I'm stalking this trade, I can be a little bit more. I don't have to sit here and watch every tick right now. Now, if in the process of stalking, I get a lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, and it just keeps doing this, never get a trigger on this time frame, and then we get a clear break of a moving average. Now, break of a moving average would be closing below that and then taking out the low of the bar that closes below a moving average. That's, to me, that's a confirmation of a trend of a moving average line break. If we do that, then we know, the odds of success on this trade between these two time frames is not very good, especially the moment this line starts to flatten out or roll over. I'm no longer looking for this trade. I'm now going to stalk, and I don't have to watch it that close right now. I'm going to stalk something for a daily trade. The daily would be the lower time frame, and I'm going to look for a pullback towards the weekly moving average. So this goes back to what I was saying on Friday, and I really appreciate the comments that came through. Guys making some comments on how much they like the channel and all. And what I don't like to predict, and this is the same thing. I'm not going to sit here and predict as to when this is going to turn. I don't need to. If I follow my plan, I might never trade this. It might just keep dropping. It just keep dropping and dropping and dropping, and then I never take the trade. One of the most important things you'll ever learn about trading is avoiding bad trades, not jumping the gun, not thinking that you know what's going to happen, right? Go into it with the attitude that you don't know, and all you have to do. So once you have your plan in place, you should act like you're about a 7th or 8th grader, and all he's doing is following the rules that have been laid out. All right. Yes, you have to have some, you got to have some skill level when it comes to reading charts and all that. But a lot of that's going to be taken care of by your plan. But from that point on, you want to be able to execute stocks that meet your criteria, and not necessarily try and be a genius at this point. Now I'm trying to be patient and disciplined from this point on. So I hope this actually helps you, makes more sense, because what you want to do here is, if this turns up and you want to play it aggressively, and that's a part of your plan to play kind of like a divergence play, you see how this histogram is diverging like that? And the other way you could do it is if the red line breaks down below 25 with a vengeance, and the green kind of breaks out above all these highs here, you could say, we've got a little bit of a reversal taking place, especially with this divergence. If you want to play that game more aggressively, by all means, as long as it's in your plan, I have no problem doing that. I just know in what I'm trying to identify in the trigger methods that I use in the course, I'm essentially, what I'm trying to do is find when this time frame is getting ready to get going again. Where is the highest probability with the lowest amount of risk that this time frame is getting started again? All right. And I think if you do that and you stalk a trade this way, instead of trying to predict, stalk it bar by bar on the higher time frame and bar by bar on the lower time frame. Each piece of information is going to be pretty valuable. All right. And as you do that, you're building a case for whether you've got a potential trade on your hands, or whether you should go look for something else. All right. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.